Well, welcome everybody. How are things here? A little bit warm up here, or no? No? Everybody good? By the way, those of you who are still standing in the back, or if you're coming in, front row as always, empty. Always empty. It's just unbelievable. On that side, this side. Um, well, once again, as Jonathan said, it's just great to be back, right? Last year we did some smaller events across the globe, but bringing all of you back together, obviously something that we were looking forward to. So welcome back to Apogee here. And why don't we give it up for Jonathan as your host for the 3 days? Jonathan. And I also want to just thank the WatchCard team, Elena, Natalie, Keith, for just an amazing job of bringing this event together. So thank you very much. So I'm going to start with a little bit about 2022, but I'll spend most of my time on 2023 and where things are headed for WatchGuard. But it's good to kind of look back, obviously, before you look ahead. And Jonathan just kind of talked about the growth just within the EMEA region. This is just to give you a sense for WatchGuard on a global basis, just an outstanding year, the best year we ever had in our history of the company from a growth perspective, but also just size-wise. And so once again, thanks to all of you by driving growth on a global basis. So just an amazing year for us, and that's kind of lead into some of the things we're doing moving forward as well. So before I go there, how do we get there? Numbers are the end result, right? There were a few things we asked of you, the partners, last year. There were 3 things specifically. We had a huge trade-up opportunity in 2022. Some of our older units were going end of life, so we had a request to all of you to make sure we trade up those appliances. Endpoint adoption, we had just launched Endpoint as part of the WatchGuard Cloud and the overall framework back at the end of 2021, so that was very important to us. And something we tell our salespeople all the time, and actually everybody at WatchGuard all the time, always be cross-selling. So that's really, you'll hear the theme for the next couple of days here. It still remains the most important thing to us as a company. And of course, that was our ask of you as well. So let's just quickly talk about how we did in each bucket. My favorite slide. As those fireboxes went to heaven and were replaced by new ones. So great opportunity. Obviously, a lot of you were able to kind of take advantage of that as well. Some of them are still stuck, didn't quite make it to heaven. They still have a month to go, just so you know. So end of June is a true end of life because we extended the end of life by a few months. So please, if you have those, you have an opportunity still for the next month or so to make that happen. But what's amazing about that is the opportunity to trade it up to total security. And to me, this is, end of life of appliances happens all the time. It's just an opportunity to talk about security in general with your customers. And it was obvious the way that was reflected in here. Our best year for TSS in general, which allows us to once again upgrade security. It's great for revenue, but obviously it's great for security in general for our customers as well. And to me, it just drives those conversations. And I think that will continue independent of the end of life. So obviously those are opportunities for you in general as we continue to add more services to our portfolio. Endpoint, I love this stat, right? I mean, look at that. 46% of our active partner base. When we active, it's partners who transact with us regularly. 46% of them transacted with us on Endpoint, right? And that was couldn't have asked for more as a start from where we, as I said, we just launched end of 2021, WatchGuard Endpoint as part of our overall solution. And to me, what it does is it allows you to have conversations and obviously to upsell to your customers as well. So if you're in the other 54%, you're missing out on that, right? So I think part of it is for us to see that number go up across the board on a global basis as well. And then finally, cross-sell. And this is great because now almost on a global basis for us, 25% of our worldwide partners are cross-selling, right? Which means either endpoint, outpoint, a lot of other things that are being added to the portfolio. And what's amazing about the cross-selling partners, those partners are the most successful with us as well. And what we find is that once a partner sells more than one product line, not only do they sell, obviously, that new product line, but they also upsell everything else that they were selling. And to me, that is amazing, right? To me, that's what our most successful partners do. And the reason for that is that the adoption of the platform itself. And we'll talk more about that, obviously, today and throughout the rest of the couple of days as well. because it allows you to kind of sell the full platform and focus more on the business that you have with your customers while we take care of the needs you have from a platform perspective by integrating all the services together. But there's another interesting stat that I wanted to share. Most of you probably know FlexPay. If not, trust me, by the end of Thursday or midday Thursday, when we're done, Ben Oster will make sure you know FlexPay when we end towards the end of that day, or middle of the day, actually. And what's amazing about FlexPay is this, obviously, it's an option there for you, because it's not just about term licenses, it's about WatchGuard points, it's about subscriptions that are available now pretty much on a global basis. But what we find there is that WatchGuard points, as an example of one of the ways FlexPay options, great enable for multi-product line partners. Allows you the flexibility to pay on a usage basis, but also allows you to then allocate those points based on the services you have. And what we find is, once again, those partners who are selling multiple products took dramatic advantage of WatchGuard points. The best year of growth we ever had on WatchGuard points was last year, and it continued actually in Q1 as well for us. So just great options available to you, and if you haven't looked into it, something you should definitely look into. So that was about 2022. Just a quick summary. So once again, thank you all for just a great year for us. I think Jonathan already mentioned it, so we truly appreciate the business you bring, because ultimately that's how we grow as well. But when I talk about 2023, some of, if you're not familiar with WatchGuard, or you haven't seen it probably over the last 7 years for us in general, is we do have a theme every year. Last year was The Power of You was the theme. This year, our theme is Meeting the Moment. And it's something we've done it every year for several years now. And it starts with us establishing the theme at the beginning of the year at our great event that we do, which is our sales kickoff, where we bring all of the people together. Obviously, we had not done that since 2020. So it was our first sales kickoff in person in Seattle in 3 years. And it just captured just the energy level. But before I get into the theme, I thought it would be just great for you to see how that energy felt in the room as well with this short video here. So just you saw the energy level there, but I want to talk about Meet the Moment as a theme. And obviously, whenever we select a theme, there's a lot of things that go through my mind whenever we pick one to kind of what that really means to us on a personal level, on a professional level, but as a company as well. So before I kind of talk about what it means, I would say at the company level, I thought I would just start with a personal story, because when this theme was established, it's the first thing that kind of came to my mind as well about me. And it's, when I think about that, it's my journey at my previous company. So it's my 8 years now at WatchGuard. May 4th was the 8th year anniversary for me. And before that, I was at a company called SafeNet. I was there for a long time. I joined there, I think when I was really a baby, to be fair. I was there for 13 years, 32-year-old. I joined as head of sales, but I did every job at SafeNet you can imagine. Ran IT, ran customer service, ran business units, a lot of different jobs there. And I kind of grew up at that company. We went from 100 employees to 1,500 in over that time that I was there, and just saw tremendous growth. And when you are in that mode, and those of you who have worked at smaller companies, when you start with something, that's just the passion drives you every day. You're not really thinking about what's next, to be honest. Things just happen. And that's what it felt for me for the time I was there. But then, almost, I would say, 9 years to the date, in May of 2014, I was at a board meeting, like any other board meeting. We have, and I was part of the executive team, so we're there. And at the end of that day, our CEO comes to me and he said, "By the way, I just resigned." Out of nowhere. No expectation, right? I was just stunned. It was for personal reasons, but I did not see it coming. None of us did. And about 2 hours later, I get a text from the chairperson of our board, and he said, "Are you still in town?" Our board meeting in San Francisco, I lived in Baltimore, but I was in town still. I had customer meetings the next day. And I said, "Yes, I'm around." And he said, "Can I have lunch with you tomorrow?" I'm like, "Absolutely." And 20 minutes through the lunch next day, he said, "Are you ready to be the CEO of the company?" And I can tell you, having been at the company forever, the last thing on my mind at that moment was that statement. And you kind of capture that moment, and you're thinking about, oh my God, on one hand, am I really ready? Like, I don't know. I've done every other job, but that doesn't mean I'm ready to be the CEO of the company. And as I flew back to Baltimore on that long flight home, I kept thinking about, am I really ready? And then I realized it's not just about being ready. You prepare for those things, whether you're intentionally preparing or not, but you are kind of always preparing. What mattered was, to me, what impact can I make? That's the thing I had to define on that flight home. Before I say yes, what will I do differently as a CEO that I couldn't do before or the other CEOs didn't do before me? And it came to me as I was landing that I had been at the company forever. I had done every job. I knew every employee by name. And that was my superpower, right? I could leverage that connection I had with the employee base and drive that culture, drive that knowledge that I had about what people did and did well to take the company to the next level. And that's really, it came down to for me, right? And being able to kind of use that is what I was kind of felt really good about leveraging that moment. So to me, when I think about meeting the moment, it's not just about preparation. As I said, it can be intentional sometimes, but it is sometimes unintentional, but you're always preparing. You're kind of getting ready for whatever that moment is that you're going after. What matters to me is, can you leverage that moment? And I would go even as far as saying that it ain't a moment if you can't leverage it. Nobody remembers the moment if you couldn't make the impact based on that moment. And to me, that's really what meet the moment means to me. And when I think back to WatchGuard, and we have had many of these moments. And over the last several years, to me, one of the first ones I'll start with is we acquired a company in Brazil called DataBlink. And it was because we felt very strongly that we had to have identity in our platform. We were still just a network security company, but we very strongly felt that we had to have that in our platform. Andrew Young and I knew the CEO, Alex Kignoni, really well from many years ago, reached out, one thing led to another. We acquired the company, and of course, a year and a half later, that became AuthPoint for us. It also was the very first service we launched in WatchGuard Cloud. It was also the very first service we launched that was not network security. And why did it matter? Right? The reason it mattered is there was a moment for us to prove to ourselves, to you, to our investors, that we could be more than just a network security company, but also it meant that we had a platform that we could build around now with WatchGuard Cloud and other things we could add. And boy, did we leverage that, right? It led to 2 more acquisitions for us across the board. One was Hexis, the other being Panda. And Hexis brought to us ThreatSync. ThreatSync 1.0 at that time. Now it's 2.0. We just announced XDR, as you know, just a couple of months ago. But we were talking about XDR before it was even called XDR, right? It was the first engine we launched. It's the foundation of TSS. It was a way to make sure we synchronize and correlate the events between endpoint. We had a sensor at that time, not a full endpoint solution, but a network security as well. And we were ahead at that time, but which showed that once again, we could leverage the platform, which allowed us to then acquire Panda with our investors who said, hey, this really works. This whole platform strategy is working for you. Let's leverage that even further. And we, of course, integrated the full endpoint solution into our portfolio, as I said, end of 2021. The thing about Panda integration to me wasn't just about technologies, it was about people. We acquired them in March of 2020, and the week we actually announced the transaction, things start to shut down across the globe because of COVID. And when I remember flying back from Madrid to Seattle thinking, I don't even know when the next time I would be in Madrid to see the folks. And we think about integration of companies, it's all about people, right? You're trying to get those, you always think about it, gotta be there, gotta make sure the teams are working with each other. We had none of those options available to us. It had to be all virtual. And it's amazing what we found. Michelle led our integration, but what we found was that even created deeper connections than normal, because everybody got to know each other in a very personal setting. On the Zoom, they were in their home, just as we were, and you really got to know people before we actually got to know their work. One of the best integrations from a cultural perspective we could have ever had, right? And we managed to do that during pandemic. And that culture speaks to how we have reacted to some of the other moments. And when I talked about moment, it's not just all about those positive things you remember. It's always some of the things that sound scary first, but they become memorable because you were able to leverage them. This is one of those moments. This started it was November 30th, I believe, 2021, when Corey and Mark got a call from FBI, as we always say, never a good thing when you get a call from FBI. Typically, no. And Corey briefed us later and talked about what we now know as Cyclops Blink. It was a botnet that had been created that was continuation of kind of what Cisco went through in 2018 as well. Same actor, same issues, but now affecting WatchGuard. And I remember us getting together an executive team after the briefing and realizing that, first of all, we don't know what it was at that point. We didn't know the impact yet. But on beyond that, it was all about, hey, we WatchGuard, are not going to be defined by what the incident is. We're going to be defined by how we react to it. We'll be remembered for how well we dealt with it. And to me, that was how we leveraged that moment. Turned out wasn't, as I said, as impactful, but we didn't know that at that time. And what's amazing to see is when we finally disclosed and we talked to a lot of the partners, it led to multiple conversations about upgrading security, right? And it is amazing, right? These opportunities, these moments turn into things you don't expect, but if you're able to leverage them, you reach a whole different level of conversation with your customers as well. And not only that, it led to one of the best examples of public-private sector cooperation on a state-sponsored attack with FBI, to the point where they acknowledged us all the way at the FBI director level for our just stellar cooperation with them in dealing with the situation and responding as well. And that's being leveraged now by Corey and Mark, who are well connected into the CSO community around it, and just leads to a lot of sharing of information that we can leverage in the future as well. So it's a great moment that you can leverage. That leads to one of our other moments last year, which was our Vector Capital who acquired us. Some of you who follow us probably saw the news. What's interesting about this news is that Vector had been a shareholder for us for many, many years. They owned about just over 1/3 of the company. And as any security company, as a growth company, as you can imagine, with all the things we have been able to accomplish for the last few years, we have always had interest from other players. And we ran a full process. We had a lot of private equity folks interested in acquiring the company. But at the last minute, Vector stepped in and trumped all of them. I have never seen that happen, where a current investor decides to double down rather than exiting after many years of ownership. And that was just an amazing endorsement of our strategy of the company and allowed us, once again, to leverage that moment to kind of do things that we'll talk about in the future as well. But this moment, I would say, was many years in the making, right? And when I think about why, it's really two things that it comes down to for us over the last 7 years or so. It's a very unified strategy as to what's really driving that growth for us to begin with. And this is the mission statement that's been true now for several years. Those of you who've known WatchGuard, you know, we proudly talk about it. And it's because it's a clear go-to-market model through all of you. We're even proud to say, yes, we're solving end-user problems. We're building products and services for you, for the managed service providers. And that's really what our mission statement is. It's what unifies us. It's what drives everything we do on a daily basis. The second factor, our employees. Very proud of that fact. Right? Our company has grown now up to 1,200 employees, tripled in size in the last 6-7 years. And 94% of those folks, right, recommend WatchGuard as a great place to work. I love that. Warms my heart every time because, as we always say internally here as well, happy employees make happy customers, which is you in our case, and happy customers, of course, take care of the investors, right? So to us, these are the two reasons why we have been able to achieve what we have been able to achieve. And it shows up in our numbers, shows up in your numbers. And of all the stats here, it's that WatchGuard one stat that I love, right? It's consistent double-digit growth, right, for more than 50% of WatchGuard One partners, consistent over the years. And this goes back to the platform, and if you tie it back to the first stat I shared with you, that those partners who are cross-selling multiple products or selling the whole platform are the most successful partners we have, right? And to me, that is kind of what drives us, and it's an amazing stat. And obviously, that results in us doing really well as well, right? Because we're part of the same ecosystem. So where are we going with this moment? So Vector obviously acquired this last moment I talked about. And to me, it's these three things. First, our go-to-market doesn't change. It's you, right? That's what I love because we have one thing that's stable. We're going to keep investing behind it. What we will change is expand the portfolio just as we did over the last several years. Our goal is to keep expanding that portfolio as we move forward as well, using the new ownership we have. But it also implies that obviously some of things will be organic, some of things will be inorganic from an acquisition perspective, and then we'll back it up with some of the internal investments we need to make. Like we've been around now for many, many years, as you know, more than 25 years now as a company, and we got to also upgrade our own back office systems as well as we scale the company up. So some of the investments definitely going in that direction, but bulk of the investments certainly focused on product and expansion of the portfolio so you guys can be even more successful compared to where we have been in the past. So what is really the moment today? That's what we have gone to. This should not be, if there was a polling question, this should be an easy guess for all of you. It's really our unified security platform. And if I think about it, this took years to build. WatchGuard Cloud was just an imagination back in 2016, right? It took us 2-3 years to kind of get it right, get it built, get it out the door. We put all the services on top of it, and now we have all of our services working very well together in one platform. It took a while for us to get there, including Wi-Fi now as part of WatchGuard's unified security platform as well. And to us, that is really the moment. But guess what? What I said earlier, it ain't the moment if you leverage it. Nobody will remember this platform if we're not successful with it, right? So to us, our focus is now to leverage what we have done over the last several years. And that's really, to me, what 2023 and the next couple of years are all about. So when I think about how do we leverage that moment, it's really just these 3 things. Never forget the why, and I'll talk about that in a sec, right? The why matters the most in almost everything you do on a personal and professional level, because we all have a tendency to jump to the next shiny thing, but you can never forget what got you there and why you were there in the first place. So we'll talk about that. That's really important to us. We have to mobilize us, and then, of course, we have to mobilize you, right? That's how we're going to ultimately leverage the moment. So the why. The why is about the opportunity. Love these 2 stats. I mean, there's actually a lot of things you will see in Michelle's presentation later today. For me, these just stood out, right? When you think about what's really happening in the world from a security perspective, most people, right, when they fall, we still talk about ransomware, and I'm sure Corey and Mark will talk about it, it's still there, right? Still the number 1 threat out there. But the reason that happens is lack of a unified cybersecurity strategy. Still, it is the number 1 reason, because people can't keep up with all the different threats and where they need to protect themselves from a perspective, protect themselves from those threats. And then, even though you are there to help them with that, if we turn that around and we look at what you're saying to the industry as well, is 95% of the MSPs believe their team loses productivity when you're dealing with multiple products from different vendors and trying to stitch everything together for your customer. So what do these things tell us? It's a great opportunity for us as an industry, right? It's about the platform a vendor like us can provide so that you can be freed up to focus on your customers to help them solve the left side, right? And that's really what this is about in the end from an opportunity perspective. And that's what we built the platform for, right? When I think about the platform, yes, it was a place to bring all our services together. Yes, we want to provide multiple services to you. But what matters is how you leverage that platform for your own benefit. It's how these things work with each other and how the underlying platform can be leveraged for your efficiency and delivering security more efficiently to your customers as well. And that's the same platform that we're going to build further around. A lot of people talk about vision, and everybody starts thinking about 5 years out, 7 years out, and gets abstract. One of the best advice I ever got from one of my CEOs back at SafeNet days, he said, Prakash, remember, the future is a bunch of short terms built together. And when you think about it, the platform we have built, it's about constantly investing behind that platform, constantly adding more features to drive more value back to you and to the end customer. And that's really what our strategy is. When I think about the new things we want to add, and you'll hear a little bit about this from Andrew later today as well, it starts with how these things are built around each other, but adding more managed services on top, for example, right? Why? Because as we realize, even you, MSPs who have good security talent in many cases, can't keep up. You can't find the right people either, right? So it's about how do we help you be more successful with our platform, with your end customers. So managed services, you'll hear more about it later today, is something thing we're definitely looking into, both organically but also inorganically, how we can add more value. It's also helping you be more efficient. So it's about what tools, what can we do to make sure that you can deliver security more efficiently out there as well. But what matters to us, to be honest, is not just the fact that we want to keep adding more into this platform. What truly matters is that those things we add have to work better together. This is one of the challenges that we offer to our product management, to engineering, to everybody internally to say, it's not just about adding the next service. You have to be able to capture the imagination of how WatchGuard could be better at delivering security because those services work really well together. XDR is a perfect example of that. ThreatSync 2.0, just an amazing example of how you can deliver security more efficiently. And those of you who have not kind of seen it yet in action, you should. I think there'll be a session on it tomorrow in the business track. I'll see them all the technical track. So just make sure that you kind of go through that as well. Just a great example of what you can do when you have multiple services built into the same platform. So that's really important to us. When we look at acquisitions, if we can't see ourselves that we can acquire a technology and make it better together with the rest of WatchGuard, it's not something we can leverage in the future, right? So it's very critical to our strategy as we move forward. And the reason is that when things work better together, it drives more revenue for you, which means for us, but also does it in a way at the same time by reducing complexity. And that's really the flywheel effect we're looking for. Imagine if we as an ecosystem here could do that on a constant basis. Our investors will just keep investing behind us because they know they can achieve some amazing scale here through the ecosystem we have built with you, right? And that's really what we are kind of driving towards in the future. And that's really the why, right? So whenever we think about the why US Unified Security Platform is so important to us, it's this exact future that we're driving towards. How are we mobilizing us? So this is one of the things as you evolve the company and you keep growing, we kind of look for different ways, obviously, to kind of scale the company and bring focus. So the latest framework we have been using internally, it's called OKR, Objectives and Key Results. And it's a framework to kind of drive alignment inside the company. And it's really challenging because it requires us to focus on picking one objective that drives the company around what we should try to go deliver. And this will not surprise you. We picked one objective for the whole company, and it is to inspire every partner to become a multi-product line partner. Now, you might see that statement. It's like, hey, that's not about you. It's about us. No, it's for us to inspire you to become a multi-product line partner, right? Which means we, as a team, internally, have to do everything possible to make that happen for you. And that means every function gets involved, right? Every job, every person at WatchGuard can influence that statement. It doesn't matter whether you're in support, engineering, and finance. You have the tools necessary to drive that internally at the company as well. And that also means we have to align resources behind it. And the way we do that is we first of all make sure that our health metrics stay healthy. That's the day-to-day stuff. Our support team have health metrics, right? Every team has a way that things they're trying to achieve on a daily basis. So first thing we do is make sure that they stay healthy. But everything else is about putting behind that cross-sell OKR. And that's really how we're kind of driving the company moving forward, while we also try to build, obviously, for a 4 to 5 year plan that we have in our own vision as well. So that brings me back to you. And when I think about mobilizing you, the number one ask is not a surprise to you, hopefully. We built this platform for you. So the number one ask is, of course, please adopt that platform and leverage it to grow your business. I already mentioned the most successful partners we have on a global basis do this all day long, right? They're able to see the value and they drive it forward, right? But at the same time, it's about, as you learn with the platform, we also want you to teach us. And to me, that's what the growth mindset concept comes from, right? When we think about growth, obviously it's numbers, but it's not just that, right? Growth mindset is you're constantly learning from each other. And that's why you're so important to us as a community. Give us that feedback. I tell our employees internally as well, when you have some feedback to give, don't hesitate. First of all, we as a company hopefully have proven we take it well. But the other side is it's only upside, right? If you tell us about, hey, well, you could do these 3 things better, even if we did only one of those 3 things, that was better than nothing. and everybody benefits from it, right? So we want you to make sure that you're giving us that pragmatic feedback constantly about what you would like to see to make our vision come true as well. And those ideas will help the whole ecosystem. And the reason you should feel very confident in giving us that feedback and driving it forward is because the trust we have with each other, right? Everything we have done over the last, I've been here for 8 years, as I said, but I think if you go even before that, the whole WatchGuard ecosystem is built around you. So that trust foundation is there. And I see that globally, right? Every partner event we've done, you just kind of feel that. And I think you can leverage that trust to drive us well into the future and grow your business with us as well. So I appreciate your time. Thank you very much. And with that, I'm going to talk about a new person here who has joined the WatchGuard team. So those of you who have known WatchGuard for a while would expect the next speaker to be Sean Price. Sean has been our head of sales for 7 years. And talking of trust, I have trust with our executive team as well. He came to me last September and finally said, "Hey, Prakash, I think my time is up. It's time for me to go do something different, some personal stuff I want to take care of." I ignored him for a few weeks, like I always do, to just make sure that maybe change his mind, but he didn't. And he actually helped us drive the search for our next leader for sales. And I'm so proud to introduce Hojan to you because we found him. He's an amazing talent, knows the space very well, comes from your community. And I would like to bring Hojan up to stage to talk a little bit about himself. Thank you very much.